even the unmentioned, Father, you know, God, who's on our hearts and what they need, much more than we know how to ask for it. God, we just ask that you grant mercy and grace in each situation, God. Lord, it's not easy dealing with the unknown, God, that we don't know. We understand that you know it, but God, we don't know the answers to a lot of these things. Father, I just ask you, God, to give us faith, God, to trust you. And that's easy to say when you're not the one trying to do it. But God, when you're the one trying to do it, we do understand that it doesn't come easy sometimes. So Lord, I just ask you to increase our faith, God. We want to trust you in everything, God, Lord, and that's what we believe is best. We believe you know how to do everything, can do everything, and will do what's right in every situation. So God, we do humbly, God, commit all these into your hands and believe to look the best for each one. Lord, do ask you to be with our church tonight, God, as we move forward with the service. Bless in every area where teaching is going on, and be with the choir, the helping priest, Lord. God, be with the guests that's with us tonight, our first-time visitors, Lord. God, just thank you for what you do for us. I ask you to continue to help us, Lord. We want to see folks saved. God, we thank you for the ones we have seen saved of late, Lord, and ask you to continue to bless and to save people, God, and set assurance in our heart, God, Lord, that you're not only watching over us, but God, that you'll take care of whatever's wrong. Not the way maybe we understand it, but God, you will take care of things. And Lord, we put them into your hands. Once again, let us see more folks saved. In Christ's name we pray, amen. All right, for the choir, you can go. For those of you who are going to stay, let's go to the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. We're reading one verse out of chapter 9, the book of 1 Corinthians. Chapter 9 and verse 22. Chapter 9 and verse 22. The Bible says, to the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. You see. What if you think of this question right here? What if the only ones that were going to get saved between now and when Jesus comes is the ones that we took responsibility for? That we took the responsibility of witnessing and winning them to Christ. No one else. This group of people, just this group of people, talking about now how you live your life right now, the same way, just going ahead like you are. What kind of chance do you think they would have if it wasn't no one but us that could win souls? What kind of chance do you think they would have continued on just like we are, living our lives every day, just like we do, just like we intended to before we got here and before I posed that question to you? What do you think their odds are? How good does it look for those that are lost? If it was just us. If it were just us. How many do you think would be saved because of the way Tommy, Ann, Danielle, Jesse, Dakota, Tony? What if the only chance they have is you convincing them to be saved? How do you think that would go? I want to look at this one phrase in that verse right there. the last phrase in that verse right there, by all means. Paul said, by all means, I'm going to witness and win as many as I can by all means. In other words, he is saying, whatever it takes, I'm willing to go. I'm willing to do. By all means. Whatever you lead me to do, Father, I'll do. Whatever you direct me in, I'll do. So now when I ask you, are you willing to say the same thing? By all means. I want to remind you of this. Every one of us, as God's people, are responsible for the lost world. Why do I say that? Because you've got something they don't have. Because you know the truth and won't tell them. You know what it takes to go to heaven, and you keep quiet about it. What if that's the only chance that they have? And honestly, how much would you be willing to admit how much of your time now is spent on those that are lost? How much of your time now is spent trying to win the world by all means? Are you willing? Have you, first off, have you incorporated that into your lifestyle, into your who you are? If a lost person stays around you very long at all, are you willing? Will you tell them, first off, ask them about their eternal security, their eternal destination? Now, I'm not talking about people, just the people that you like, or that's your kind of people, or just the ones that visit you, or just the ones that are your friend. I'm talking about, by all means, anybody. Do you see it as your responsibility, first off, when you meet somebody you don't know? Do you have a feeling inside of you that says, you know what, I don't know them, but before I leave, I'm going to know if they're saved or not? Would you be willing to do that, at least to remember that that's what part of the intention of God had when He intended on you meeting this person? Part of His intention, part of His plan, and I don't know how much, but certainly not Neil, not knowing, there was part of His plan that had you there for the purpose of those folks getting saved. Now, I'm not saying that's the only reason that He had y'all to have this encounter or this meeting of, but it is part of His plan. Before you leave with them, before you are no longer in their presence, it is part of God's plan that you find out about if they're saved or not, if they're going to heaven or not. And really, I want you to think of this. That is the minimum of God's expectation of us. I mean, that's the least God expects out of us, is to at least find out about their salvation, if they know Christ or not. You need to prepare yourself to ask the question and to answer it. If they're willing for you to expound upon, if they're willing to listen to you, if they're willing to just let you talk, you need to make those preparations in your life, and that needs to be, if you want to live the true Christian experience, the blessed life, if you want to feel God, if you want to see God in your life every day, then that has to become a part of who you are. It has to become a part of who you are. That's one of the reasons, once again, not the only reason, but that's one of the reasons God left you here as long as He has. He's left you here for that purpose, that somebody else be saved, that somebody else be brought to the saving knowledge of Christ. But the mission of the church is the mission of lost people worldwide. Now we have to make special arrangements to have our influence felt all over the world, and we do those things. Not to the degree that I wish we were, but we do have an effect on that when we take part in sending Bibles to the other side of the world or whatever. We do have, but not a large enough. But if we're going to affect that foreign country over there, why in the world do we neglect the responsibility of the mission right outside the door, right out front of the house, right out on the road we live on? Amen. You know, and like I said, it's not to lessen our determination to be effective worldwide, but to be reminded that there's a mission field right outside these four walls that we could be taking a part in. And if we're really that interested in missions, how about our community that we live in becoming our mission? We need to make the community we live in part of our mission. We need to get excited about salvation, about spending eternity with God, and knowing that what this life has to offer isn't nearly what God's got planned for us. God's been making plans for us to come where He's at for a long, long time. But not only has He been making plans, He's been preparing heaven for us. I can't imagine how much God could get done if He created the world and all that in it is in 6 days and rested on the seventh. If He could create the world, how much in thousands of years could He have done for us by now? How much heaven must really be if the God of creation, Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you, and coming back to get us. How much could heaven really have in it? I mean, it could have more than we could ever imagine. So we need to get excited about our salvation. It's hard to get somebody excited about their salvation that they possibly don't even have if you don't seem excited about yours. If you don't express to them how excited you are about the salvation you have. So we need to get excited. We need to renew the vision in us every day. Waking up tomorrow, the next day, the next day, and the next day. Reminding ourselves when we first wake up, part of God's plan for me today is to win somebody to the Lord. Don't know what all else He's got planned for me. And God wrote a plan for my life. God wrote out a plan for my life. God has a plan for me. Stop right there. Did you go into the day reminding yourself that I'm part of a plan, and I need to know what part of that plan I am? And before I leave my doors, my abode, I'm going to determine what my part of that plan is. God's got a plan. And I'm going to walk in His plan today. My Lord, if just this many people left home with that attitude, God's got me looking for somebody. God's got me looking for somebody. And then you go through life with the expectation, okay, the next corner, there's going to be somebody standing right there that the Lord's got prepared for me. And then every corner you turn, or every stop sign you come to, you look around real good, because God's good at just having them pop up on the side of the road. And you'll miss them. You don't drive around with the expectation of God doing something in my life, you drive right by them. You just drive on to the house and go like, well, nothing happened. God said, you missed 4. I had 4. One of them fell down in front of you, almost ran over him. There was 4 of them on the way home. You didn't see none of them? No, Lord, I didn't see none. You need to look a little closer, because I'm telling you, God is not slack when it comes to His duty in providing those that are lost to those that are saved, that are winning. I'm telling you, He's not slack. I've had God, I think I've, call me what you want to. I think I've had God mash a brake on my truck before and make me stop. I'm going to tell you, if He didn't do it, I don't know who did. It wasn't me. Because it wasn't my neighborhood to be stopping in. I tell you. No. But when I got stopped, I looked, and there sat the guy right there with his head in his hands, sitting on the steps. And he's right there in front of me. You know what? And every time God has had me to stop or directed my path in a way that I wouldn't normally even go, and then provide somebody for me to take part in their life, to be an encouragement to them, to win them to the Lord, or whatever. God is good at doing that. I'm telling you. So I want you to think about this as you travel tomorrow. Pray that God, on the next corner, or the next stop, or the next encounter that I have, God, let me win them. Let me witness to them and win them. Wouldn't your day be different if you at least thought about that part of the time you were thinking about all that you had to do? And you would get through thinking, and I know you run 1,000 miles an hour, and many of you work very, very hard, and I understand that. But if you remember part of my daily task is winning people to Christ, how would your life go? Wouldn't your life go better if you felt like that God was involved, and God was aware, and God was a part of what you went through every day, and you get home in the evening and you look back at it and you can see God's fingerprints all in your day that you spent? And then, I can tell you what that does. That makes the Christian experience so much richer, so much more richer, if you look back and go, oh my goodness, look. God's handprint right there where I sit, right at the top of that chair. You see God's handprint right on the back of my chair. I knew God was there the whole time. I could tell that was Him moving. I could tell that in the spirit that was in me, that was moving me to do different things. Boy, life would be a lot better, because you can get home and go look like, ugh, boy, that day went bad. But you might could paint a little bit better picture of it if you recognize all the places that God was in it. That God was in it. And my reason, you go into your bedroom and you're ready for bed, and you go like, Lord, thank you for walking with me all day. Thank you for the places that I can see you in my life. Thank you for that. Paul said, hey, by any means. He said, anyway. He said, by all means. By all means, that we could save some. Can't save them all, but save some. Of course, we can't save anybody. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Set up the situation. We need to increase our zeal and involvement in what God's doing in our life. You know, you get so caught up in, especially, I'll just take like me, for instance. I'll get really involved in what I do, and I go to the hospital, and I start going from room to room to room. And I think about 2 other people that I want to try to get by and see on my way home. And I start to rush around, and I start to really just focus on that. It's hard for me to get involved in what God's got going on. I mean, I know God's involved in what I'm doing, but I'm just saying, He never gives up on me winning somebody to Christ. He never gives up on me. He never lets a day pass in my life where He would not have helped me out had I taken advantage of what He set up. So by all means, Paul was history's greatest missionary. Paul's goal in missionary work, he said, and he knew he couldn't do it all, he said that we saved some. That we saved some. And a lot of times we'll use an excuse like, well, you're not going to win the whole world, Brother Jimmy. Well, I may not win the whole world, but I might win some. Paul didn't think he could win the whole world. He just thought he could win some. So I'm just going to deal with the some that I can. So Paul, like I said, his goal was to save some. Paul was willing to identify with whoever. Yeah, but you don't want to stop here, that that bunch of people there, or those folks over there, or you know how that. Paul said, hey, count me as one of them. You're not going to go down to their house, are you? Yes. Oh man, you really don't need to go down. You don't know what kind of people they are. I don't even care. I don't even care. Paul said, as far as the weak sake, I became weak. You know, they thought I was one of them. I just blended right in there. Now listen to me. I'm not giving you an excuse to blend too much. Right? You're still supposed to be a godly person. But you're never supposed to have fear of this group or that group or whatever because that you're going to present Christ. Listen to me. I can tell you this. I can tell you this. Because I'm telling you, you've been fooling yourself. The world wants Jesus more than you think he does. I'm telling you the truth. They want Jesus more than you think they do. And they'll be more willing to listen than you think they will. The devil's a liar. I mean, he tries to throw that out every time. Well, they're just going to make fun of you, or they're going to... I'm telling you, a lot of times there's people out there that's hurting and hurting bad. And if you can give them one glimmer of hope, buddy, they just flock to it. And I'm telling you, it's always those that are in need that find Jesus. It's not what he said. I didn't come to the ones that was well. I come to the ones that were sick. The ones that well don't need a physician. I came to the ones that know they're sick. And I'm telling you, it's never a bad thing to inject Christ in to your conversation. Never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing. Unless God shows you otherwise, then you ought to be a disciple of God's. You ought to be his disciple. Paul used all means of witness at his disposal. And so should we. So should we. We ought to be willing by all means. It meant to Paul, he said, by all means I want to win some. If it were, he meant preaching in public, in the synagogues, in the city square, in friendly and hostile places, didn't matter. It meant testifying boldly to individuals, in prison inmates, the Philippian jailer, to Felix the judge who wanted a more convenient time, to the King Agrippa. King Agrippa, he said, Paul, you've almost persuaded me. He wasn't scared to even tell the king the gospel message. It doesn't matter where I go, or who I'm dealing with. I should be willing to give them the gospel message. Most of us are too timid to use all the available means we have to witness. We want God to get somebody, bring them to our house, knock on the door with them, bring them in front of us at the couch we're sitting on, and say, will you win them to me? It's not going to happen like that. That doesn't. It's a free will choice that you can remind them that they have. They have it whether you remind them of it or not. But this world out there and what goes on out there every day is not going to remind them about Jesus, I promise you. They're going to do everything they can do to make them forget Jesus. So we need somebody on his side. Paul said, I'll preach anywhere, anytime, that you allow me, or if you don't allow me. Paul was cast out of the city, stoned and beaten and all types of things, locked up in prison and everything else. And he still didn't, it's like, hey, don't witness to the sheriff or he's going to put you in jail. Don't matter. Sheriff come up, first thing Paul does. You are saved, right? You want to go to heaven, right? You know how to get saved, right? And the sheriff said, listen, if you don't shut that up, I'm going to have to lock you up. He said, but you are saved, right? I mean, I know you may have to lock me up, but before I get locked up, on the way down there, do you want to pray and receive Christ? I mean, that's how overbearing Paul was with it. I mean, he just wouldn't shut up about it. I think you should let the Lord lead you in what you do. But I want you to remember this. The Lord is not skipping over you, and the Lord's not talking to you in your life like he is everybody else. He is. You may not be listening for him, or you may not be hearing him, but I promise you, he's talking into your life. He's speaking into your life every day that you live. We're slow to identify with people that we're different from. If you really want to win people to Christ, most of the time, or a lot of times, I find that it's people that I am indifferent to, that I wouldn't normally be involved with, that I win more than people that I am involved with. But black people, they are more ready to hear the gospel message than white people are. My experience, that's the way it was. And, like I said earlier, needy people are much more willing to listen than those that don't have a care in the world. Because it's when we find ourselves, a lot of times that God allows us to find ourselves in need before we ever start looking to God, or we start looking for God. A lot of times we have to be, down to the bottom of the bucket, the last apple in the crate. A lot of times we have to be, God has to allow us to be put in a position like that because we won't listen to him otherwise. Now, that's me, number one. Me, God don't have to just, I found out in my life, God don't just nudge me. He breaks my neck. But he'll like, break your neck, put you in the bed there for a few years, put you, and we'll see, can I get in touch with you? Now, he get in touch with you pretty quick after he allows things like that to happen. But I'm telling you, I believe this to be true. I believe some of the things that have happened to me, if I could give you a story of my life, you would go, oh my goodness. But some of the things that have happened to me, I called upon myself. And doggone if I don't think that sometimes I prayed for them. I prayed for, I'll say, God, do something to make this happen or that happen, or God, and he goes, I'm not to break your neck, but you said anything, so break your neck real quick. And a lot of times, like I said, did I pray for that? And sometimes I find that that I was guilty of putting myself in position and asking God to do so I would listen to him. You know what? I'm going to give you a heads Listen to him before that. Listen to him without that. How about let's just listen to him? And then when he says it, then do it. You know? Don't be so hard-headed. I ain't even got to the first point of the message, and our time's gone. By all means, Paul meant whatever it takes. What, by all means to me? Well, what does by all means mean to me? And then I close with this. By all means, what does that mean to you? Well, what are you willing to do? In connection with what I've been preaching on. What are you willing to do? And I want you to answer this question to God. What are you willing to do to save some? What are you willing to do to save some? Did you try to save some today? Did today afford you the opportunity to win some? I think there's a lot of people in a lot of different situations. Like Belinda works at a clinic, and then she's got people coming in and out all day. And then Will works as an electrician, so he has probably a smaller amount of people, but he has different people that he meets all the time. Daniel, when he's doing the police work, he sees a lot of people, you know. And I wonder if all the people that know Daniel, there's a lot of people that know Daniel, may not know his name, but know he's a little cop. They know that. I wonder if they know he's a Christian. I wonder if they know that he's supposed to be looking for not only criminals, but lost people. I wonder if they know that about you or not. Would your closest friends and acquaintances, most of them, would they know that you go to church? Would they know that you're saved? Would they know that you know how to tell them to get saved? Would they know that it matters to you one way or the other? What about people let's say people that have a crew? What about people on your crew? Say you've got a crew of 3 or 4 or 5 men or women or whatever that work with you that spend just about every day. Do they know that about you? Do they know where you go to church? Do they know how often you go to church? Do they know what you going to church means to you and to them? Let's stand. I want you to think about these things, because this is what we're supposed to be thinking on. I want you to think on these things. And I challenge you to tomorrow. Tomorrow. Try it for one day. That's not what you should do. You should try it forever. Make it a project for your tomorrow. I'm going to, even though I don't normally run into people, I don't even associate with people, I'm going, if I have to run somebody down, I'm going to find somebody tomorrow to see if I can win to the Lord. You willing to do it? I wish every one of us, because I get all kind of phone calls tomorrow evening if y'all did it. I would know before dark if y'all all got loose out there and doing what you're supposed to. I'd find out. But what would happen if just this many said, you know what? Somewhere I'm gonna run somebody down tomorrow. I'm gonna if I can't, I don't have anything to do with the final outcome. But I'm gonna pray the sinner's prayer with them one way or the other. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it tomorrow. Let's pray. Father, as we close, and God, as I challenge your people, Lord, I ask you to give them each one right now strength, faith, and confidence Lord, enough to try it one time. But God, I know how rewarding it is. God, I know what an awesome God you are and what you can do that we can't even believe that you can do. So, Lord, I ask you to be with each one that's heard this message tonight. God, that they try it one time. By the power of the Holy Spirit, if they're saved, that dwells in them. And then Jesus that comes to seek and to save that which was lost. Lord, help them. Bless them in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.